welcome
Thank you.
to the downside, everybody. Very excited to have you here. My name's Gianmarco. I'm here in LA. I'm at Melrose Podcasts. It's a new studio. The walls are made of Liquid Death sparkling water. They don't sponsor us, though, so don't drink them yet. If they start sponsoring us, I will endorse them, but I do enjoy them. And I'm here with my guest, who came in last second.
Wow.
Dani Fernandez.
I was your
thank you for
second
being
choice,
here.
but thank you.
You were my. I never thought you'd be attainable.
Wow.
Out of my league.
True. Yeah, you do have to contact my manager to access me. So
I wrote you directly. I shouldn't say that because then everyone's gonna write you being like, please
no, my
do.
DMs are closed, so they absolutely can't.
Oh, good.
You and I follow each other. That's why you
Jay
have.
Jordan
Jay.
recommended you right away. I said, Jay, I
Yeah.
need someone good.
Yeah.
And Jay, how do you know Jay?
You know, from Twitter, from comedy.
Yeah.
We when all those celebrities did that Imagine video.
Yes.
Like, remember the start of the
I
pandemic?
made a parody myself. I remember it fondly.
Jay and I had one about thirst traps. And so where we were like talking very seriously about it was a PSA for thirst traps.
Good.
Like me and him go to battle,
Ooh.
see who can put out as many thirst traps.
I didn't see that one. I'll have to find it. Well, I'm very happy to have you. And I did more research. I'm even more because I want to talk. We'll get to it. I want to complain about my shit first. I had a fucking I was in Arkansas for a headlining couple days. Have you ever been to Arkansas?
No, but I grew up in Texas, and there's definitely Arkansasian places in Texas for sure. So the vibe, certain areas that you drive through are very,
So many signs just said guns.
Yeah.
And there was no store attached. No, like it's on sale. Like it was the national motto, and it was the state motto of Arkansas, and like the state bird was a dead quail. It was just like, everything. So the owner of the venue picked me up, and he goes, I got good news and bad news. What do you want first? And I'm like, oh man, I wish there was just neutral news.
Right.
And I go bad news, of course. What do you pick when people say that?
I would just say good news only. Like,
I should have said that, and maybe the bad would have gone away.
That's so good vibes only. Like, do I have to hear the bad news?
But he said, bad news, show tonight's canceled.
What the heck?
Exactly. And in my head, I said, there's no good news.
No.
Unless it's a private jet back to New York City right now. And it was good news was I'm still getting paid.
Of course.
And I was like, bro,
yeah,
I'm not in stand-up for the money.
Yeah, that's just okay news. That's not good. I wouldn't even classify.
Sometimes people approach, I think that's interesting about art, where to them it's like, oh, this is your job. Don't you want time off and getting paid for time off? But I'm like, no, I only would travel to Arkansas to tell jokes for a room of people.
Yeah.
But I guess what happened is Walmart was having their founder was born there or whatever. And Walmart was having
like Sam, whatever his name is?
Yes.
Okay.
And I went to the Walmart Museum where it was like propaganda for Sam. Like, it was just about what an amazing guy Sam was. They never talk about all the mom and pop shops that are closed.
Yeah.
And I guess they were having their shareholders weekend. And the night that got canceled, Christina Aguilera was performing for free for anyone who wanted to go. And so I guess
the shareholders?
Yeah, but like I think anyone could go, or everyone there is a shareholder.
Wow. The face I'm making knowing that I would also sell out too, so I
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, for Walmart? They've done some shady stuff to employers, unless you want to pay me a couple million, and then I am also
They have the money. And someone recognized me at a coffee shop from Instagram, and I said, oh, I have a show. And they said,
Arkansas?
In Arkansas. But they were visiting from New York in the Walmart shareholder thing.
Whoa.
And this is how I know he's getting paid a lot, because he said, oh, I can't make it to the show. And then he just Venmo'd me $25. If you're Venmoing just some person you follow on Instagram, you got money.
Yeah.
You just made that in the minute we were talking.
Wow.
So
anyways, my Venmo is Dani.
It works. Mine's in my bio. Once in a while, I'll get a little something.
Yeah, I should do mine. I'm just weird, but I should. Yeah.
So the only upside is the owner took me. He had his own plane, and he flew me as the pilot to a baseball game in Oklahoma.
Whoa.
Now, I hate baseball so much that if he had just flown me right back, that would have been fine.
Yeah, like, you could have flown home.
But I was very scared. Like, the moment he told me he had the plane, I was like, oh, I know I'm going to do this, but I'm going to go through all my anxiety.
Yeah, for sure.
I Googled, how did Kobe die? How did that happen?
Yeah.
How did Aaliyah die?
Right,
Did you know this about Aaliyah? You knew about Aaliyah dying in the plane crash.
Yeah.
Did you know that she didn't want to get onto the plane?
Oh, I think I did know that, yeah.
Went to her limo, and one of her people roofied her, essentially, and brought her onto the plane unconscious because she didn't want to get on. She didn't think it was safe.
Yeah. I know John Madden, wouldn't ride a airplane. Did you know that?
No.
Oh, my God.
Really?
All of their football games, he traveled by bus. All of them. All of them. Can you imagine?
My dad is scared of flying.
But I mean, you're how many games are in a season?
You feel like shit.
You're going to Florida. You're going to that's crazy.
And I have
back and forth.
I was scared, but then the plane ride back, I fell asleep. That's how quickly I recalibrated. But my dad is scared of flying, and he used to fly. I don't know if it was 9/11. I don't know if he just didn't do it for a while and it got in his head about it. But he hasn't flown in 22 years.
Whoa.
And
is that train life? Because I wish I was on that. Some trains look nice.
I will always take a train.
I really haven't taken a lot of trains.
There's not a lot for our purposes. I mean, they always talk about a super train system. Is it China? Does China have a great train system? There's somewhere in Asia that has an amazing train system, and it's like, that would be the dream.
Those beds, and it's a little hotel in there.
I have always said,
I need to be doing it.
No one seems to agree with me. For planes, horizontal. Get rid of these chairs.
Yeah.
I want to lie down. I'll lie down the whole flight. I don't want to sit. It hurts my back. You barely go back. Everyone horizontal, stacked up, bunk bed style.
Wow. Okay. I don't know about that.
Now tell me why no.
I wanted to correct you. I did lie down my whole flight to Greece.
So you were first class?
Yeah, I was first class. That was the only way I was going to do it.
Well, Dani,
not
all of us can swim to first class.
It was the only way. I don't always fly first, but I was like, I am not sitting up straight for 11 hours. Are you kidding me?
You paid for it or a gig? It was a gig or you paid for it?
I paid for it. With the gig money, I guess. I was in a writer's room since September, and I was like, hell yeah, if I'm going to go to Greece.
What did that flight cost?
I don't know. You know what's so crazy? I used a travel agent.
Really?
Can you believe that they still exist?
No.
One of my girlfriends is friends with a travel agent. And so I used a travel agent, and she actually shouted her out. She booked all my hotels, she booked my flights and everything. And they get paid on commission. I think people think that they you have to pay them.
Sure.
But they get money from all the places they book you. So I didn't have to do anything.
And you had to lie down.
And I got to lie down.
Full horizontal.
Honestly, I'm not even kidding you. On our flight back from Greece, I had a meltdown thinking that they put me in the wrong seat. I was like, I cannot, because I have health issues and stuff, and I was like, I can't. I have a lot of inflammation. I have Lyme disease and also Hashimoto's, and so literally I'm like,
what's Hashimoto's?
Hashimoto's is a thyroid disorder.
Okay.
I was gonna say it's not just a thyroid disorder; it's an autoimmune disorder where your antibodies attack your thyroid.
I see.
And so I do a lot for it behind the scenes to take care of it, because it affects it'll make your hair fall out. It affects your heart rate. This is all to say, I was having a meltdown because I was checking my seat, and I was like, I have to be able to, I cannot sit up straight for it's 4 hours. We had a 4-hour connecting flight and then an 11-hour flight. So it was just.
Sure.
We were 24 hours in the airport.
I haven't done 11 in a long, I think I did Israel. I went to Cape Town and I went to Israel, but someone gave me a Xanax. The only time I've ever taken Xanax, and it knocked me the fuck out. So I just have to get into. I used to be very scared about Ambien. I started taking Ambien now and then, and then I always get if I had a glass of wine 3 days before, I stress.
Oh, okay.
And now I feel myself as I get older going, fuck it.
You're rolling the dice.
I'm washing it down with wine. I can feel, and I'm like, oh, this is how it happens. Because I call my mom all the time because she's a sleep medication. She's like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
You want to know how type A I am? 100% called poison control. when
What did you take?
Yeah, I took Xanax, which was prescribed to me. So I was taking Xanax, which I don't take anymore because I didn't want to have to live through this. Took Xanax, and then, I had been out drinking. And I got home and I was like, oh, I got to take my Xanax so I can fall asleep. Took it and I was like, oh no.
Yes.
I was like, what if I don't wake up? Oh my God. And I remember I was dating a comic at the time. We're still best friends. But I remember he was like, you're going to be fine. I'm like, please check on my breathing. You have to check on my breathing. I was like so adamant that he like put his finger and like can tell that I'm breathing through my nose like in the middle of the night. Called poison control. They basically said the exact same thing you said. They were like, you're fine, really.
I think it was so
what if I'm not?
Well, the doctors... the doctors always talk in this code that I think is so they never get sued.
100%.
So I'll be like, hey, so if I take an Ambien and I like had 2 beers that night, is that fine? And they're like, most likely,
Exactly.
and I'm like, can you just say yes? And they're like, the only reason they can is because one person once died from it.
Yeah.
Oh, so Xanax, you were prescribed that. I should get that.
I don't take that anymore, so no, I can't speak for it.
I'm trying to think if I've ever called poison control.
I called them again too. They know me. I called them because.
Dani, hello.
Okay, listen. I know. I called them multiple times. I'm like thinking all the time. Okay, so another time I called them. I think I had mixed alcohol, maybe a Xanax, and an edible, and I had taken too much of an edible.
Wait,
or
how
I had
did
taken
this one
too
happen?
many.
The first story made sense.
I don't know.
This
Who
one
cares?
sounded...
Maybe it wasn't a Xanax. Maybe it was, I just remember I was freaking out. I called them and he was like, the guy, you could tell, he was so frustrated. He also sounded like maybe he had just gotten out of school. He sounded young. And he was like, you've really put me in a bad position. That's what he told me.
What did he mean? That he just didn't know how to advise you?
No, because he couldn't really advise me. Because I took something, when you alcohol is different and Xanax is different. Edibles, which are not regulated the same way, alcohol is regulated to some extent.
Yeah.
It tells you, edibles just aren't, you know. Oh, maybe I'd taken edible shrooms. I don't know. It was a weird combo.
Edible shrooms!
I think I do microdose shrooms, I want to say.
My girlfriend really wants me to do shrooms. I've never done them. Very scared
I would have brought you some if I had known.
That's very kind.
If you're ever on my side of town, I'll give you some. But yeah, so I microdosed shrooms, and I think that was it. Maybe I took a pot edible shrooms and something else, and I called him because I was having difficulty breathing, which was probably just me freaking out.
Sure.
And I think my allergies were bad, so I was already like, well, I only got one nostril. What if I die? I was freaking out, and he was like, you put me in a real bad position, because like if something happened to me, like. That's basically what he was saying, is like, I can't help you. You took something that's illicit. Which Xanax is not, but you took something that's illicit. How am I supposed to help you? You know?
Did he say anything, or did he just go, I gotta go?
Basically.
I feel like all their calls are this.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, someone's like, I just swallowed rat poison. And they go, guys, come here. We got a real one.
Yeah.
We need to call. I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac. You see, it sounds like, is that called, would that be considered hypochondria if you're scared you're always poisoning yourself?
Maybe, yeah, probably.
Paranoia.
I feel like the normal person doesn't care.
Yeah. My girlfriend. I remember once she took Klonopin after drinking, and I was freaking out for her, and she was like, I'm fine. I need to just go to sleep. And I was like, baby, that's death coming for you. That comforting feeling, that's death wrapping its dark caress around you. Well, good. We talked briefly before. You're a positive person, and I've had positive people before.
Okay.
And by the end,
whoa!
Oh my God, they've broken the table. They've cursed out their parents. They've broken up with their spouse.
Wow.
So we'll see if we get there. What I was so excited was, I was a Dragon Ball Z person.
Hell yeah!
And
you see my tattoos?
I was gonna ask. I didn't know that's where they were. That's wonderful. Did you get both at the same time?
Yes.
Now, I fear going too deep in Dragon Ball Z because I feel this is part of my problem where I'm like, I have always had like eclectic interest in a way where I don't know, maybe 10 people who listen to this podcast like Dragon Ball Z, because that's never been my, I almost want I have a Goku shirt that I brought on this trip with me. I have 2.
Wow.
So my experience with Dragon Ball, I was the only kid. It always sounds like
Same.
every
Yeah.
kid, you wonder how are they all, there's so many of us, but there's just one in each school.
Yeah.
Somehow they separated us, so there's only one loser in each middle school. No one liked Dragon Ball.
No. Where did you grow up?
Potomac, Maryland, near
Okay.
Bethesda. They weren't even comic book kids.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I got into it, Toonami,
Yeah.
but I went and this was Dragon Ball Z. For people listening, let me just try. This is an anime from Japan. Started as a manga, which is Japanese comic book. And Dragon Ball Z was booming. It exploded because of Toonami on Cartoon Network. I went on eBay. My dad was cool about this kind of stuff, where we got bootlegs of all the Dragon Ball episodes and all the Dragon Ball GT episodes and all the Dragon Ball Z episodes not released in Japanese with subtitles, uncensored, which at the time was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I would watch the old Dragon Ball episodes, and I had a list. I mean, I must have been in 5th grade, 4th grade, and the list said like fuck, shit, bitch, and I would count, because I just was so fascinated by it, how many times Goku or Vegeta would go fuck, and I had like a list, or how many times you saw Bulma's titties.
Right.
And there was a couple times more in Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
And it was a magical thing that I wish I had a friend to share it with.
Yeah. I had my brothers were into it, so that's who I watched it with.
Older
but it
or
was
younger?
I had an older brother and a younger brother. But it was very weird to like it. When I was in middle school, this is before I moved to Texas, I was in Orange County. And so kids were watching Laguna Hills. That's what people were.
What is that?
Or The Hills.
The
or
Hills.
whatever.
Is that like an OC?
But it was before that. What was the one before that?
Before Laguna, is Laguna Hills like the OC, like that type of thing?
No, but it was like the reality show that came before
Real
The
World.
Hills. No. It came before. I can't even remember. Now I'm like blanking. I did do shrooms earlier, so I'm not even kidding.
Did you
Like
do it today?
I microdose. Yeah, I microdose regularly.
How many milligrams?
I don't know. I have to look at it. But I don't know why I'm blanking. But anyways, people were watching that. And then Jersey Shore and stuff. And so nobody was watching. It was very weird to watch Dragon Ball Z. You were a weirdo if you liked it. And then it's so funny because it's mainstream now and everyone makes fun of it in like the anime community. Or they're just like, oh, wow, you like that? Wow, mainstream, wow. And I'm always like, well, Akira Toriyama, who created it, influenced a lot of the niche anime that's out there right now.
Yes. I also think I've not gotten into, I visited the new Dragon Ball, the Super,
okay,
or whatever, and the moment I saw Frieza as like kind of the good guy, I said, no, that's like, for me, that's like historical fiction where Hitler teams up with it. Like, It's like, he's a bad guy.
He's still bad.
He's bad, and it feels like a betrayal. It's one of these things, I'm just like, you know what, I'm fine with this segment of my childhood. I'm going to start like critiquing it as an adult or not enjoying it as an adult, and it will ruin my old.
Yeah.
Do you still like the new Dragon Ball episodes?
Yeah, 100%. I do have to say that Goku canonically has a history of making all of his enemies his friends. That's just his character.
Some enemies can't be friends. How many people did Frieza kill? Genocides.
How many people has Vegeta killed? That's his best. One of his best. I mean, I guess people would say Krillin is his best friend, but Krillin, you moved down.
The blue hair, the red hair, I can't. You got to give me more than the hair color changing at this point.
You might get that. There's a new movie coming out. You might get that.
I like Super Saiyan 4 in GT. I thought it was
great.
a cool design.
They're hot pants.
Yeah, it's a really. I'm a hairy Jewish man, and like there's something about like they become more like. Was it apes or monkeys?
Yeah, they're apes.
They're apes.
Half ape.
Well, now that we've lost the whole podcast listenership, Dragon Ball GT, Super Saiyan 4. But were you a loser?
Yeah, for sure. I was bullied heavily.
Now, how would they bully you?
I mean, we're getting into some dark shit, I guess, if we're going to complain.
Sure.
I had someone in my PE class convince the whole class to call me Shrek.
That is
As a young
brutal.
middle school girl that had like thick thighs, they would call me Thunder Thighs.
Thunder Thighs
Was a negative back then.
Was a name that someone called someone in my middle school. I remember that.
Yeah,
Thunder
and now
Thighs.
everyone wants thick thighs. And
Where did it come from? Why Thunder? Because they clapped together?
I
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've never thought
so
of it
I
out
played
loud.
soccer. I was thicker, and I got called like chubby. for liking Dragon Ball Z. It was weird. I had like I still remember his name, which I guess I shouldn't say because people will probably dox him. But in Orange County, I had a kid in my middle school who was the classic bully, like a classic school movie villain, where I would have my little Dragon Ball Z cards in like a card protector. I don't know if you collected the cards.
I didn't. I was a Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon guy,
yeah, I had those too, but like sometimes they would have foil ones. So I had these little card protectors, and I had them at school, and I thought it was so cool. And he would go and he would slap them out of my hand. And he just was like, you watch some of the movies and you're like, is anyone actually like that? And he definitely was. But he like lives with his parents now, so I feel, and I'm a successful person in Hollywood.
If he ever apologized, would there be any room in your heart for like, oh, you were a child? Or do you go, that's an evil person?
He just seems, I don't know. I also dealt with a lot of racism, so I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe I should be open to it.
It sounds like you had it worse than me, but I do remember playing soccer, shirts versus skins, and a guy coming up to me. He was part of the Marriott family. And he came up to me and he, I can name that.
I've never heard that. I've never heard anyone say that.
Yeah, Marriott, I'm a Bonvoy member, so if you want to give me a free room for this one, I'd appreciate it. And he went up to me, and he went up, and I was shirtless, and I was kind of heavier chested, and he went, booby, 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 and like hit it like Rocky. Wow. And that hurt, but not Shrek.
Yeah,
That's
there was a
brutal.
guy in my class that I had a crush on, and that hurt extra bad. I had a lot of stuff go down in middle school. Middle school was horrible in Orange County. So
was it public or private?
Public.
And did any teachers say anything? Did your parents try to do anything? Were you just, I'm going to do this on my own?
There was a point in time where I was crying so much my mom thought I was pregnant.
Oh my God, in middle school?
Because in Orange County, I mean, people were messing around. Plus, like, we all looked like we were older for sure. Girls were dressing like they were like 16, 17. It's probably how people look at people now at 16, 17 are like, they look like they're 21 or whatever. Like we were definitely, like I said, we were watching The Hills.
It's wild. Because I went to a private middle school, and I could just tell later in life, people had wildly different experiences with sexuality. Because I remember 7th grade, there was a rumor that one of the girls at a different high school, the all-boys high school, had touched her boob. And I remember it was the scandal of the century. And I remember we were kind of friends, but I remember being like, are you okay? Is everything all right? Like, that's how.
Yeah.
And then I met other people, and they're like, oh, we were doing anal in fucking. I was like, anal? Jesus Christ!
That definitely was a thing that went around in my high school. But yeah, when I was in Texas, it was a little different. It was definitely not. Although you watch, like, I don't know, Varsity Blues, and yeah, people are doing it.
So were you? So you were crying. Your mom's like.
Yeah, she legitimately asked if I was pregnant because I was crying so much. Yeah.
And was it leaving? When did you go to Texas? What grade were you?
I was like 12 or 13. And it was for me, it was a great experience because we ended up going to, I went to Frisco High School. It was the only high school at the time that I was there, but then my grade actually split up and it was 2 high schools, and now there's like 9 high schools. But my brother played varsity football. He was the captain. So I was like, sure. I got to be like popular by association. I went from being called Shrek to like people, I would have random football players like, hey, Danny, like, hi, Danny, like coming up to me because they all knew my brother. So I got to go to prom my sophomore year.
It's like someone asked you.
Yeah, someone asked me. A senior asked me. So I felt like, I'm kind of popular here, being from California. And then Texas kind of just became my home. I actually had, even before that, my dad has a ton of family in San Antonio. My cousins grew up in Dallas. My cousins went to UT. I went to UT. My brother went to UT. So, like, my family was from Texas. It was just, like, a certain period. I also was in California.
So leaving that school in OC was just amazing.
Yeah. I would be a different person if I had stayed there. I'm worried that I would have been like a cunt or something. I would have been a horrible person. Sure. I was around horrible people. Do
you have any friends back from that era, or did you leave them all behind?
Pretty much left them all behind, but one girlfriend who, she has a bunch of kids, so we took very different routes. But I was in Ralph Breaks the Internet. I was in the Wreck-It Ralph sequel, and I was like, hey, it's me, Dani Fernandez. They like animated me, and she wrote me. I'd not talked to her in like a decade from my middle school because she saw it with her kids. So I had one person from my middle school write me.
That's very cute.
It's kind of insane. She has like 6 kids. She's Mormon.
I have had, I've had a couple old middle school people come to comedy shows. Sometimes it's you don't know what to talk about. It's been so long.
Yeah.
So you're like, hey, we knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you look like at 12. Okay, good to see you.
Right.
Oh, you're not going to buy merch? Okay, then we're done. We're done here, buddy.
I will have people from my high school be like, hey, I'm in Orange County, like, for a couple days. And I'm like, great.
It's wild. I've had...
Like, that's not where I live.
There's this group of from my high school that, like, comes to my comedy shows when I'm in D.C., where I went to school. And I'm just like, we never were friends, really. And I'm glad they come.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to see people later.
Yeah.
But part of you is just like, you never liked me when I'm that same kid.
Yeah.
That you never invited to the party. So, okay. So you moved to Texas.
Yeah.
Things are going better.
Mm-hmm.
You went to UT. My sister went to UT.
Love it.
Did you like UT?
I did enjoy it. I wish I had partied more.
I feel that same way too,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I'm a partier.
I'm not. But
You did do shrooms before you came here.
But those are for depression. Heavily recommend everybody. Those are for depression. But yeah.
You think there'll come a day where my therapist will be like, shrooms?
Maybe.
It's always Lexapro, Prozac. It's never, have you tried microdose?
I think my therapist is happy I'm on them.
That's good.
So.
I got to try it. Now, do you have a regular dose?
Oh,
like,
no.
You've never?
No.
Okay, interesting.
I don't like that feeling of not being in control. I also have OCD. I have clinical OCD, and I don't like how that feels. The feeling, I don't like it. I've had it happen before. Kind of like, that feeling where we were saying that you took Xanax and you drank and like you couldn't control, you were about to pass out and you might not wake up. I don't like that feeling.
Sure.
That's happened to me a couple times. And so when you get too high, that feeling kind of happens, and it's very triggering.
How does your OCD express itself?
I have obsessive intrusive thoughts.
Me too.
I have pure OCD. I don't have the compulsions, really, although I did tweet that I had a latte last night at 9 p.m. so I could clean. Because if things get too messy, I get even more depressed.
I wish I had that part. I don't have the cleanly OCD, but obtrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
I think I told my therapist once, I said, a lot of times when like a stove is opened, I think about people being burned alive in the Holocaust. It is the thought that like comes to me. And it's just like it flashes, and it's a flash.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm like, and I'm transported, but it's like it just pops in my head every time.
Yeah. Do you feel you can do something because mine will be when my eyes are closed, like sometimes my eyes are closed, something horrible will pop in, I can open my eyes, and it kind of like dissipates a little.
Really?
Yes.
I'll try that.
Yeah.
I used to have, this went away. Sometimes things go away. And you're like, well, I guess that's good. I used to have whenever I put my hands up, for some reason, it's something about the exposed armpit. I thought like knives, someone would throw knives, like just fucked up thoughts.
Yeah.
Under the bed, a lot of under the bed stuff. I'm a stove checker for sure. Classic door locker checker. I will check that. All my knobs will eventually break because I do like 4 or 5 checks every time I leave somewhere.
So you have the compulsive part.
Yeah. Oh,
that is it.
Yeah, I guess, but it's.
You don't have the cleanliness.
I don't have the cleanly, but
yeah.
I sometimes think it's like I feel personally to claim OCD. It's so mild. My OCD is so mild.
Interesting.
That my
what
therapist
you described
called it
was not mild.
Yeah, but you know what it is? I think it's like sometimes at least my therapist would describe it as like, does it get in the way? Does it prevent you from, if I was running late to things because I kept checking the doorknob,
gotcha,
then maybe I would own it more. But like at most, if I really gotta go, if I'm running late, if it's important, I can go like, it's locked, and I can go and it's fine.
Yeah.
Did you ever take medication for OCD?
I don't think so. I'm on Lamictal. Aside from taking shrooms, I'm on Lamictal, which is a mood stabilizer, which is the only thing I've taken. All of the things is the only thing that I really like. It had the smallest amount of side effects for me personally. I know a lot of writers are on it. It turns out, like, I would talk about it, and like more people from our community be like, "Oh yeah, I'm on Lamictal," and I'm like, "Oh okay." So everybody's just, when did y'all discover this? Were you gonna tell me about it?
I've never even heard of Lamictal.
It's a mood stabilizer. Yeah, it's technically an anti-seizure medication, I think. But they've discovered things where they're like, "Oh, also it makes you feel better."
Well, that's when I was checking out antidepressants. I think that's where I lost confidence in the whole system. Where I went to see who prescribes the actual stuff, psychologist,
a psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist, and it was an older man, and he was like explaining to me, is like, well, this sometimes it does this, and sometimes the cloud feels lifted. And I'm like, am I in an English class? It feels like it's just metaphors.
Yeah.
And sometimes weight gain, sometimes no weight gain, sometimes erectile dysfunction. And I just felt like it felt so random. And I feel very impatient. Like I felt like the idea of like, let's take it for 6 weeks and see.
Hate it.
Was like, no.
Yeah.
And for me, at the time I was more of an actor. And so I had this fear that it would neutralize my emotions. And I would be like a robot on set.
Yeah.
But now maybe and weight gain, I think I would really be like viscerally upset if I felt like anything was making me gain weight.
Yeah.
I would be like, take me off this immediately.
Yeah, I've tried a bunch of different things and I had the same thing happen. To be honest, they also do that to us with birth control.
I've heard the birth control. It's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, which sucks. It's such a horrible thing to be messing with your hormones, or like all of a sudden your insurance doesn't cover it anymore, and they put you on this other one, and they act like they're all the same, and they act like it, and they're not. And I remember once I like spoke out about it, and everybody said I was like anti-birth control, and I was like, what the?
They thought you were like
they thought I was like pro-life or some shit. I'm like, no, I'm just saying like maybe use a condom or something. And that's what I do. Like I'm not on birth control anymore because it fucked. I tried so many different things.
Yeah.
And also because I have health issues. I'm not even going to go into it because people are going to write me on this. They're going to take it the wrong way. I'm very pro whatever the fuck you need to do. But just know it was severely affecting my depression. And people will be like, well, try this instead. And like, it just doesn't for my body physically like rejects things. That's why I will never have implants because of my autoimmune condition. And so, I don't know. What was I saying?
Dude, now, was IUD ever on the table? Because that's
right.
My girlfriend,
yeah.
I never, for a second, I was so scared. I know so little. Sometimes I fuck up the words. I thought I like said like
IED?
IED, yeah. So the IUD, I just, my girlfriend sent me some kind of TikTok that like showed on, something what it is. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Or there's like TikTok videos where it's like they're taking a video of themselves as they're getting it, and you just see that they are in excruciating
Yeah, it's not for me.
pain.
But, do you. I'm going to keep doing my methods. Never been pregnant, so.
Do you get a lot of people mad at you about medical stuff? I mean, medicine is so. We saw from the vaccine. It's so imprecise, and then when you throw that into social media, you're gonna get.
I just can't speak up on it. I'm just not going to. It's a nightmare. But I will say that I, at least with my Hashimoto's, successfully put it in remission. Some of my doctors said I never would, and I fucking did it. So there were a lot of different things that I did. I actually have a chronic illness group for women in the industry. There's like over 150 of us. I almost said 150,000. Over 150 of us in there.
After this podcast, let me tell you, this thing's going to blow up.
I want to tell people the reason why it's not open, it's very private, is because we're talking about our literal medical shit. People are talking about like their uterus and stuff in there. And so, but I needed a safe place for people because I was speaking about it publicly, and then it was affecting my employment, which is shitty and horrible.
You heard like someone said.
Yeah, no, literally I was hosting at Comic-Con. One of the companies I was hosting with said, are you sure you're even going to be able to do this? And I was like, oh, you guys, like this could be affecting my auditions. This could be affecting my people hiring me. And you've only known me for a little bit, but I've worked everywhere. Like I hustle really, everyone would tell you that works with me, I'm like one of the hardest working people that they know. And it really sucks the ableism that I'm not able to like speak more openly about chronic illness without people thinking that I can't be a part of this business. But I was just in Forbes, baby. So
congratulations. That's why we reached out to you so quickly. We saw you in Forbes. We said we got to get her on here before it's impossible. Now, do you mind if we talk about was it in college, the stuff with the thing that ended up being the pilot that you wrote, 1%?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So what was that based on? What happened?
Okay. Yeah. That was after college. I had gotten married to someone that I met in Texas. We were young. We met when we were teenagers. And that's just kind of what you did when you graduated.
It was so funny. When I was in Arkansas, I was taking an Uber, and this is where everything feels, I'm in a different world.
Yeah.
And he asked me, did your wife come down with you? And I go, oh, I have a girlfriend. And he goes, his phrase was, how long have you been interviewing her for? And I was like, that's wild. That's just, everything is within this framework of it's to conclude in a wife with children. And I maybe had heard that in a movie, but when he said it, I was like, that's crazy. That's how you view it.
Yes. Yeah. And so when I graduated from UT, everybody graduation night was getting engaged. It was just like, what?
They're like proposing
happened? at the ceremony.
And
at UT, they have
hate that.
We have our big tower, and there's all the fireworks, and it's a big deal. And like, UT
Why would you want to
all...
combine moments like that? That's like wanting a birthday on Christmas. Separate it out. Be special 2 days a year.
No, a lot of my friends got that I was in college with got engaged, except me. I didn't. And so I ended up, I was actually working in cardiac rehab. That's what I got my degree in. And so I was working at a hospital, and all the little old ladies would be like, what's wrong with your boyfriend? Does he not want to get married? Does he, and I'm like fucking, I don't know, like 21, 22. And so I'd come home and be like, why?
Oh my God.
And so he ended up proposing, I don't know, like maybe 6 months later. And
did he do it romantically, or was it one of those, why? And he said, fine, will you marry me?
He did do it romantically, but I think there was a level of like, let's just say we didn't work out. I'm not still married. So It shouldn't have happened, apparently. But we were in love and at the time. And I don't know, we just ended up wanting very different things, having different lives. And so anyways, 1%, I was going through a divorce. That was after that. He was
good divorce, as good as it can be.
I don't know. It was who. I thought I was gonna be with him forever. We were the couple that dated all throughout college, and that couple. It's like they're at every party together. They're the couple. When you're going through a breakup, you turn to that couple. Like
of course.
We were the couple that was always together, and my friends were always like, I don't know, unsuccessful relationships, dating dickheads. I'm like, why are you doing that? I'm with this like king over here. And he still is. He is. Like, he's a good guy. We just got married too young and not meant to be together. But anyways, I was going through a divorce, and I just felt like my whole life was falling apart. Yeah. I was also we had moved, so I was working at a call center. I wasn't even working at a hospital
What kind of call center?
It was Oppenheimer, which is a financial investment company. And so I was just dealing with rich people screaming at me.
What were they mad? Like you misinvested my thing, or the stocks?
Yeah, which I had no control over.
Sure.
They would want to know about their stocks. They would want to know how much money they had. And then they would quickly, if the market was changing, want to move stuff over. And there's limitations to protect us, to protect them. And if I couldn't move it over fast enough, they would freak out. And I would literally get calls from like Hawaii, like rich people that had bought up land in Hawaii, and they're on a different time zone, and they're literally calling me, and I'm like, I cannot imagine being so miserable. You have so much money. I can look at your account right now and you sound absolutely miserable.
That is funny to know their net worth and be like, sir, do you know what I'm getting paid to deal with this shit right now?
Like $12 an hour. And so I would cry like in the bathroom stall, like on my break. I would cry like in my car. And so I ended up having a suicide attempt. and that's how I wrote. And then I had to
Do you mind if I ask how you attempted?
I feel like we're not supposed to talk about
really
that, but I'm open to it. I've been open about it, but I've heard in the mental health community that you're really not supposed to tell people how, because it gives them
trigger warning
because
right
it gives
now.
them like ideas, which by the way was not successful, so don't do it.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess it seems like that's wishful thinking.
Let's just say women historically have less violent ways that they have attempts, and so that's also, I think, like why we survive more of our attempts. Anyways, I woke up in the hospital. My husband
When you woke up, were you like, damn it?
I don't even know what I was thinking. I was very out of it. I had no shoes. And they don't give you any. And I was
there's
wearing.
A reason for that, because they don't want you to leave, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I left with no shoes. My husband was there, like sitting across from me in a chair, and I just remember the look on his face, which was just the utmost sadness. Like nothing about our divorce mattered anymore. It was just like, I can't believe that this happened. Like just a pure look of.
Did you feel shame?
I felt shame in telling my family. And I later felt shame in coming out about it. Now I've been pretty vocal. That I feel everybody knows. I've had an attempt. That was not my first attempt. Unfortunately, I had one in middle school from the bullying.
Really?
Yeah. So I grew
you're
up.
0 for 2.
Look at that. I can't do anything right, including that. No, God was like, gosh darn it, we said you need to be here. Anyway, so he was sitting across from me, very sad, and I think he was like, "We have to get that." That was a breaking point, right? I couldn't do my job anymore. I had to leave, and I remember telling them too, because they were like, "No, you're so good." They were like going to promote me at the call center to like manager. I remember, yeah, and I remember I was good at all my jobs, all my odd jobs. I'm very type A, and I like doing well. I like getting the gold star, and I was like, "Look, I've tried to take my own life. I cannot be here." And so I went to Texas. I went back to Texas. I stayed with some friends for the summer and just was in therapy, worked on myself. I later ended up getting to go to IOP, which is outpatient. So I was not inpatient. That's when the hospital released me, essentially. So I didn't have to stay, especially, I believe, because my husband was there. But I didn't have to stay for like a week. Typically, you have to stay an inpatient. You're staying in the hospital to get help.
Yeah.
I was released, and then I later did, I did a ton of therapy. But then
divorce is going on throughout this whole thing.
We were very much like, let's not take anything. Like, if you want something, you have it. If not, like, we didn't go through the courts or anything. We signed that we both didn't want anything, and that made it really easy that we could just be like, oh, the couch, yours, this, yours,
Yeah. There was no fighting. It was all.
No, not after that. And I moved here because I was like, this is the perfect time to pursue comedy.
I mean,
and you know why? Roy Wood Jr., who I sold that show with, who we now have the same manager. He's one of my best friends. Him and a couple of other comics, before I even moved here, said, like, you're funny. You should do this.
How did you know him?
I had developed, at the time I had, back when I was at UT, I had developed a following on Twitter, and I would put like dumb sketches and I would put my dumb jokes on there, and a lot of people resonated with it. Several people checked in on me. Several comics were like, this is really funny, but are you okay? Which I wasn't.
And did you think of yourself as a comedian, or were you just like, I'm just fucking around online?
Yes. I was just like, no, I'm depressed. And where do you go when you're depressed? Twitter. And so I made a lot of depression jokes, a lot of divorce jokes, like a lot of stuff. And so a lot of them started following me. I ended up meeting Roy at Denver Comedy Works, because that's where I lived after Texas. My ex and I moved to, that's where I was at the call center in Denver. Mm-hmm. And long story short, he was just like, no, you're funny. Funny's funny. And you're funny. And I was like, I ended up talking to a television writer, because I always wanted to be a writer since I was younger. In fact, I applied to the journalism school at UT and didn't get in, or else I would be on a different track. But like I wanted to write, whether it was comedy, whether it was fiction or nonfiction. Like I just always been writing since I was young. I was actually published in a teen magazine when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So long story short, I've done a lot of different jobs, and that's why I moved here. I moved here because they were like, you're young enough that you'll regret it if you never do it. And I was. And I was super poor. I was coming off of a suicide attempt, not a mere 6 months before. And I got a job at the Ice House Comedy Club being a hostess. I was a hostess there. And
it's hard. I think it's hard for me to imagine being suicidal and starting comedy.
How many people have that journey, though? There has to be
see,
a
like,
lot
getting
of our
into comedy
friends.
and then getting suicidal and then leaving comedy.
I feel like a lot of our friends have probably been suicidal and done stand-up.
Now that I'm on the road, this is the first year I've been on the road, and I'm like, man, it's hard. It is emotionally very hard.
Yeah.
It is lonely. It is dark. You're in Arkansas, and your show is canceled because of Walmart.
Yes.
And you left stand-up.
I did. Mm-hmm.
Was that a hard decision?
No, not at all.
Did you go like, you know what? No more.
I was treading water, and I still see a lot of people treading water. And it was just like, I moved here to write TV. What am I doing? And now I have also transitioned to acting, but I was like, I can't do all of the things because I'm not moving ahead. And I love the years that I had stand up because it helped tremendously in my writer's room. It helped with all the hosting. I've hosted for like every channel ever, and having a stand up background does help. But I don't miss those hours. Like when I was dating the comic I was dating, I'd be going to sleep at 11 and he would be showering to go out and do a set. I'm like, that's miserable. I want to be in bed.
Oh yeah. No, I know. Now, I know. Talk to me because you host and I don't host like that, but I know that hosting it's something I do here and there, and I'm sure it will be more a part of my life. I'm a depressed person. You're a depressed person.
Sure.
What do you think? Because the hosting, we have to bring a certain degree of cheer and energy and charisma to it. Do you think why it shouldn't make sense on its face? It shouldn't make sense that if you're sad or you're depressed that you go out there and you like put forward this thing.
Yeah.
You're positive. You're front facing positive.
Yeah.
I'm very front facing, joking, negative. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's just interesting because sometimes I see positivity and I go, especially in show business, I go, bullshit. There's something in me, and this is me as a cynical person. I go, no, you're depressed. No, you're sad. This is inside. I don't comment. Yeah. I'm not one of the people replying like,
you're not one of my trolls.
Well, you're smiling in this picture. Do you feel sad ever though? Did you forget you're going to die someday?
Somebody did that to my middle school picture. I'm not even kidding. When I had shared that I had an attempt and I shared one of my photos. I had a rough childhood and I shared one of my photos and they're like, well, you look happy here. I'm like, sir, if I could murder you, I would go to jail right now. I deal with that all the time. Here's the thing. It's not helpful. It's not helpful to be negative. And that doesn't help me. And I think a lot of people have started to follow me because I made this massive transition where I am not kidding you, so much healing work. I've done all of the things. I've done EMDR. I've done brain spotting. I've done EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's big in the trauma community. It's very difficult. It basically desensitizes you to your worst memories. That's its job. Very hard, but life-changing for a lot of people. Brain spotting, very similar. It's adjacent to EMDR. I've done TMS, which is transcranial magnetic stimulation. That's where they stimulate the understimulated areas of your brain. Heavily recommend this because you're not diving into your worst nightmares. What else have I done? I've done hyperbaric oxygen tank. This is where all my money goes. Everyone's like, I work, I'm in all these writers' rooms 24/7 writing scripts. That's where all my money goes, is to my mental health.
Any of it you do and go, oh, that was a scam?
No, but not all of it is for me. A lot of the medicines that you listed weren't helpful to me.
Sure.
I think some doctors are, let's say they're doing their best. I'll give them that possibly, because I had the same thing where they were like, well, let's put you back on Wellbutrin. I'm like, but I've done it twice. I don't like it. If it works for you, great. It doesn't work for me. I don't like it. And they were like, well, we just can't think of anything else to give you. And I'm like, are you serious? I can think of other things to give me.
Yeah.
I can think of other things. There's Google. So that's definitely happened to me. And I was like on shrooms, and they were like, well, we can't support that. And I'm like, well, good thing that I'm on them, because you're doing the bare minimum.
Is shrooms legal in...
They're illicit. No.
Nowhere?
I don't think.
I
Maybe
thought there was
in
one state that made
Portland
it legal.
or something.
It was something like that. Exactly.
Yeah, probably. They should be. They'll hopefully eventually. They really are life-changing for a lot of people. There's tons of documentaries and stuff, and I am a big believer in them. But yeah, I've done all of the things aside from all the talk therapy, CBT, DBT. Checked into an outpatient program for 6 weeks where they taught us coping skills to not be suicidal. Basically everyone in there was suicidal. You had to be actively in crisis in order to get your insurance to cover it.
You had to like write a letter being like,
your doctor did.
I barely finished this letter. How do you prove you're in crisis? You don't have time to do the paperwork.
You had to be in crisis. It was a great bonding experience so anyways, you were asking about 1% happy. That's what I wrote it about. I wrote it about a bonding experience. I wrote it about a girl who woke up from a suicide attempt that she never thought she would. And what happens when you get the second chance, you know? And
as someone who's never... I sometimes go, are you really depressed, Gianmarco? You've never tried to kill yourself. There's some degree of like, sometimes I this is obviously delicate subject matter, but there is a degree of like, I get scared of someday being suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I'm in my heart of heart, my fear of death, I don't know if it's I've never been suicidal, but my fear of death or like there is a hard wall that it would take a lot to penetrate it. And it's a fear of death.
Okay.
And it's like, and so sometimes I wonder, it's like, oh, is my depression less than I might think it is? Or some people feel severe depression, but it doesn't translate into suicide, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
I just like, I've never truly felt in my heart that I'm suicidal, but I think it's because my fear of death and my desire to still live forever, despite being very depressed, is so strong.
Yeah.
So unflinching.
That's like a survivor, like, you know, your body's fighting. Like that's a natural human.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people that are suicidal or depressed, when something happens, like say me, I accidentally take a Xanax and a drink, like all of that, I call poison control immediately.
Exactly.
Because your body actually has a reaction of like, oh crap, like, no, actually I need to live. It's like you're instinctually trying to keep yourself alive.
Yeah.
But I'm not suicidal anymore, I want to say. And I mean, just the sheer amount of my therapist, and I've had a lot of different therapists. My therapist is like, you could basically therapize yourself at this point. And I did. I took a break from her for like 6 months because I was like, I don't want to talk about the same stuff anymore. Sometimes you just need a break.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's a loop. It's a repetition.
But going back to my need to be positive, I have to. I just have to. I have to be in a different mindset. I can't be that old Dani. She doesn't even exist anymore. She's done too much healing work. She's done too many things to go back there. So I definitely have rough days. I have days where I'm really bitter. I used to be really bitter about the amount of therapy I had to do because of other people. Like because of how much I was bullied to the point that that I tried to kill myself as a kid. That's fucked up.
Yeah, that's whenever you hear a kid kills himself, you go. That's one where I understand. As you get older, there is part of me where I'm like, oh, I see how someone could get to a place that go, you know what, I'm out of here. Yeah. But when a kid does, you're like, God damn.
Yeah.
Because it takes it just takes like a new thought. I don't think when I was a kid I even conceptualized the idea that I could possibly even do that. So yeah.
And then I had really abusive family members. And that was really, really hard. I think that affects, that's something we learned in therapy with attachment theory. So you build basically how you go through life, the rest of your life with your relationships is built the first 5 years of your life. And it was so funny in my group therapy, they gave us a pamphlet on it. It basically said like, this is impossible to change. And we're like, oh, cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
Your attachment style. Not you can, but it takes a lot of work. And so the ways that I was spoken to as a child, the things that were said about me all the way through adulthood really messed with my head. And so I've had to do a lot of work to undo that. That's also why when people that follow me, I post like thirst traps. I post like that. A lot of people are like, I wish I had half the confidence Dani has. I get those comments all the time. And it's because of how much I was called basically like a piece of shit and ugly and chubby and like all the horrible things, sometimes by my own family, that I'm like, I got to a point where I'm old enough where I'm like, fuck y'all. I'm going to post whatever the hell I want. I'm not getting any younger. Yeah. And one day when I'm 80, I hope I'm still posting thirst traps when I'm 80, but one day when I'm 80, I will look back.
Your grandkids will be like,
I will look.
Oh my God. What the fuck,
I'll look back and be like, yes, thank you. My tits looked great. My ass looked great. Thank you. So I do big up myself a lot. I have to.
Can you enjoy the movie Shrek, or is it ruined for you?
I do.
You do enjoy Shrek.
I do. I don't even think about it. I don't even put it in relation to me. But when I think of middle school, I think of that Shrek.
Yeah.
And being called that.
Now, group therapy. I've never done group therapy. I think it would be hard. I'm doing a couples counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a different dynamic because in my therapist, I'm kind of I push myself to be as honest as I possibly can, including lots of thoughts that are mean.
Yeah.
And then like you introduce more people there and you're like, well, now there's, I just feel like I would suddenly be censoring myself in a way where I'm like, is this counterintuitive therapy? Did you like the group therapy?
I loved it. I mean, there was a lot of drama. I think people think it's just like you're passing around Kleenex and like crying, and that's not it. People would get in fights, which I found fascinating.
Did you ever swing hands?
No, but I got really mad because we had. I actually don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about this. Well, it's anonymous, but so no one will know. But we had a girl that was really religious, and people were really hard on her, and I thought that was really shitty. I'm not religious, but like, I think that's really shitty. And I wouldn't be
hard, but I remember.
So, like, basically what I'm saying is she thought she was a sinner for all the things she was doing, and that fucked with her head.
Sure.
And so she would feel suicidal about a lot of the sins, and to all of us, we're like, we're out here, like, you're, whatever, like, sleeping around, doing drugs, like, whatever. And so everybody would give her a hard time. And I'm like, but in her head, y'all, you're not helpful.
Yeah.
And so,
if you got bullied at group therapy, that would be brutal.
I know. I was like, this is a safe space. Clearly, to her, it's important. I don't care that the rest of us aren't religious and we're all going to hell or whatever. But anyways, I think if you did it, you would find that you related to a lot of people, and that's what felt good.
Yeah.
Was people saying something you're like, yes, exactly. Thank you. It was a lot of that.
Yeah. Now, before we go to our final segment, I did want to, because the one downside I want to talk with, you deal with a lot of, you do the Comic-Cons and you do kind of the nerd culture and kind of the downsides of fandom.
Yeah.
And particularly, I know I'm not in the Star Wars world at all. I'm not in it at all. Even when I was a kid, I don't know why. I never connected to space. Honestly, I think space makes me feel existential in a way that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like looking at the stars. All I think is the universe is expanding, and it's all nothingness out there, and it makes me very sad.
What's your sign?
Now I have to say up front because I'm required. I deeply don't believe in astrology.
Clearly, we can tell.
Now I'm gonna say it. And Leo, I'm born in August. And yes, I do the things. So Star Wars.
Okay.
You see these fandoms, like the toxicity of them. And what do you think I was interested because I saw your tweets. Well, so right now there's a
Moses.
new cast member.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's her name?
Moses.
Moses.
Ingram. Uh-huh.
And she's getting all sorts of Star Wars has been a notoriously racist fan base. Is that a fair assessment to say?
No, I would say that it's a vocal minority. I think that's in every fandom. I think it's a vocal minority. So they just seem really loud, but they don't actually make up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like the series, at least the first 3 movies, was striking in its lack of diversity despite being intergalactic.
Yeah,
the first 3.
Yeah, it was just I don't want to make excuses for them at all. I just sorry, I was looking up something. I don't want to make excuses for them at all. But I'm excited for the future of Star Wars. It's very I was just literally on a panel about Latinos in space because I don't know if you saw that Vanity Fair cover, but we're like all over it. We have Pedro Pascal, Rosario Dawson, Diego Luna. We have Oscar Isaac. We're in there.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it. But no, to answer your question, I think all fandoms have a certain toxic, unfortunately, side. But I really think that when I was at Star Wars Celebration, there were so many good people. Like so many people that showed up that were cheering on my friends. My friend Christina Ariel, she's a host for them now, and they were like cheering her on. They were cheering on Kelly Marie Tran. There were so many cosplayers that dressed up like Kelly, and so for her character Rose. So I do think it's moving in a good direction. I just think, just like it is with comedy, you focus on the negative, even though the whole room is laughing, even though there's all these great people. You see the one person in front who's being a cunt, and you focus on that. And so I'm not saying not.
Do you think the property owners do enough to protect their diverse stars who in some of these, and if you work with a lot of these companies, so I certainly don't want to put you in an uncomfortable position, but like could more be done from the powers that be to protect their stars, knowing that when they diversify or they cast they know that if they cast a lead of a new Star Wars thing and that person is not a white dude, there's going to be some kind of pushback from a minority of the community, and they're going to harass online, and they're going to could more be done?
I'm sure more could be done. I do like the fact that they've been they spoke up for my friend Christina. They spoke up for Moses. We also got to Ewan McGregor himself wrote a thing that was basically like, you're not a Star Wars fan, which I agree with. Because that's the whole thing about a lot of these fandoms. It's like, how can you call yourself a fan when you don't even follow the own morals of your community?
Sure.
Like I was saying, even with I'm in DC now, which I love, gotten a lot of love being in the DC family, but I'm like, if you're telling me go back to your country, are you a fan of Superman? Because you know, not only is that not his morals, he's also literally an immigrant, but are you paying attention? Whose side were you on in Star Wars? And so yes, of course. I think there can always be more. I think that hopefully now that we know that this is taking place, my biggest thing is these communities, a lot of these Discords, a lot of these YouTube channels allow that to fester. I imagine that someone hopefully on the Star Wars side or whatever has mods that are deleting the comments, blocking people, but there are a lot of other channels and stuff that don't. Yeah. And so I think that's what needs to happen is I need other fans, especially if you look a certain way, you relate to maybe straight white people more than the rest of us do. You need to tell people, hey, we're not going to put up with that. You need to get them out of your community. You need to be blocking them. Don't put it on the actors to be doing that. Yeah. You need to make them feel uncomfortable. No racist should feel comfortable in Star Wars. It's fandom.
So wild that it's put on the actors. It's just such a misunderstanding. One of my favorites was, I think, Taylor Swift got mad about some line in some Netflix show. Someone said, you date more guys than Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift did something about, how could you do this on International Women's Month? And people went after the actor who said the line!
Oh,
the actor who said the line!
Yeah, that's rough.
And I'm like, this poor actor! And I just, I would hope Netflix would send a whole crew to her house and protect it and take care of everything.
Yeah.
Because it's just horrible. Great. We got negative. I think we did. I think we got there a little. And now let's go. We normally have music cues. It's not the home studio, but now this has got to stop. Okay. This has got to stop. Dani, it's something that's got to stop.
Hashtag funeral. I'm not kidding. Funeral selfies.
Funeral selfies.
I'm just as confused as you are. But yeah, if you look up, that's a real thing. If you go on Instagram and look up hashtag funeral, there are people posting their fits, their funeral fits.
Now, is the body in the background?
Sometimes it is, yes. The casket, yeah.
I'm trying to think. Well, first of all, I don't think I'd have, for a loved one at least, I wouldn't have a viewing. I don't need to. I don't know. Do you want to see your loved one one final time as a corpse lying there?
It's a weird closure thing sometimes psychologically that people need.
My girlfriend and I got in a fight once because I said, if I died, would you like kiss my cheek or something, or like pet my head? And she was like no. I'd be like, ugh. And it really, something in me, it made me feel really abandoned.
Yeah.
It makes sense, though. I mean, I can barely touch a dead mouse, and you're like, this is a whole dead person.
Yeah.
But in my mind, there's always like the, goodbye, sweet prince.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, funeral selfies are weird. I will always remember, I had an older friend, and she posted on Instagram, her friend had died, and she took a picture in the hospital room. He was dead.
Oof.
And this was not unlike some showing off their fit. Like, she meant this sincerely, which made it maybe even worse. Where she was like, goodbye. She did hashtag RIP bury my friend. Like, that's gonna trend. And when you see, are these like LA funeral people showing off their looks?
It's not just LA. But they definitely find their way over to like Twitter and stuff. I feel people end up like dragging them. So I just want to give you a heads up. Like, don't do it.
I guess they're with their friends. Maybe they haven't seen their friends in a long time.
Sometimes
like,
it's
let's
grandma.
get a shot.
A lot of times it's grandma or something, like RIP grandma, and it'll be like their.
But that is a
like
thing.
Outfit.
Would you have, maybe not for Instagram, but do you think you'd take pictures at the funeral?
That's so weird to me. I don't know. One thing that I do know is when I die, I want my friends posting the hottest photos of me. And if they don't, I will hex them from the other side. They know too. I know Jay would want that. I know if Jay Jordan, our friend Jay Jordan, like, you better be posting. It's like your birthday, Sometimes some of my friends for my birthday, they'll post photos where they look good and I don't. I'm like, I'm not retweeting this.
How dare they?
How dare you? But I know the ones that my friends think are hot because you can tell because they like posted it or they'll post it multiple times. I'm like, all right, let me boost
What
this.
if it's too sexy? I think I could see going like, well, this is too sexy. The person just died.
They'd be like, look at Dani's cheeks, okay?
That's the caption too. Hashtag Dani, my friend, RIP. That's a good one. That's a good one. So please stop taking pictures of funerals. Now we move on to our final segment. Oh my God, I normally have the music. I forget the title. It's Blessing.
Okay.
We say a blessing. I have a blessing, and I like to do this when I have a good weekend. Shauna Blake, my opener in Arkansas. Sorry the Thursday show got canceled. I couldn't compete with Christina Aguilera, but Shauna had a car. She took me some places. We went to the Walmart Museum together.
Wow.
And she lives in near Tulsa. So book her, please.
Love it.
Great comedian.
That's
Very good
nice.
opener. And I hope to work with her again. So that's my blessing.
Okay.
And I'm in LA. My mom's here. Always goes out to my mom for letting me stay with her and her boyfriend.
I love that.
Do you have a blessing?
My blessing, this might sound cliche or I don't know, but like all the people who follow me really help me a lot. Like, they support my work, which I need. They retweet every time I want to delete Twitter, it's like, okay, but I have this comic coming out and they've shared it. People show up for me. People
You just had a comic come out. What was it called?
What day is this?
It's going to be in a little bit.
Okay, well, I did have a comic come out, DC Pride 2022. I wrote a Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy story, which you can still get in comic book stores. But My Star Wars panel, people showed up for it. Like, people are showing up, and I notice people have showed up for me, and some people have been following me for years. And so, you know, they really look out for me, and I appreciate that. I appreciate people who take the time to follow me and my work and share it.
Is it ever anxiety inducing? I just did Brea Improv, and I think I sold about 93, and I was backstage, and it was the first time in a while where I was just like, Jesus, these people gave their Sunday for me. And I was looking at some new jokes I wanted to work on. I think that was also part of it, where I'm like, this one's probably not going to work. This is going to be a 10 rough minutes. And I'm like, oh, they gave me their Sunday. Mm-hmm. It can be overwhelming to see people to feel like, oh, I need to make them feel like their love was worth it. I need to live up to their expectations.
Yeah.
And I could see how that could be exhausting.
Yeah, but I do feel like I give back a lot.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I'm constantly on panels talking about how I broke in. I, as you know from following me, feel like I'm constantly tweeting out positive things to try to like get our community to get back up, because I feel we're just constantly down. We're just constantly bombarded with horrible things at all times. And so a lot of times when I tweet, honestly, every time I tweet something positive, it's something that I personally needed to hear. But a lot of times people will be like, how did you know this is like exactly what I needed to hear? Or like, I'm crying in my room and this was like the sign I needed to hang in there. And so I do try to give back quite a bit.
Well, good. That was lovely. I realized even as you were saying your blessing, I was like trying to challenge your blessing, and that's a horrible. The comic was well received.
Yes, it's gotten a lot of good reviews. I'm really excited. I'm really glad people love it.
Is comic books, is it like a gay friendly space? Like Jay loves X-Men, and Jay posts shit, all the X-Men fucking each other or just very homoerotic, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know this was part of the DC world.
Well, that's Marvel, but
forgive me. Oh boy, here we go.
Well, yeah. I mean, DC canonically, Wonder Woman canonically queer. She's from an island of women. They're not all virgins. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And then Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, like they're literally fucking each other on HBO Max. So you can see them do it.
When they make a movie where instead of Batman versus Superman, Batman loves Superman. When they make that, that's when we're in
please
a better
rate
place.
him, not me. Please.
Oh no, I'm gonna get doxxed. Okay, so this is coming out June 28th. Is there anything you want to plug specifically?
No, yeah, just follow me on my socials at Ms. Dani Fernandez, MsDaniFernandez. Know that mental health is a journey. I do not have all the answers. I do not speak for literally anyone but myself. So if you're like, this thing really helped me, I'm glad, because just find what works for you and know that it's a process.
I have all the answers, and life is a nightmare, and being upset makes a lot of sense to me.
Hilarious.
I will be in Nashville July 1st. July 9th, I'll be headlining Bonkers in Orlando. July 14th through 16th, I will be in Denver, Colorado. And July 22nd, 23rd, I'm in Toronto for the first time, performing in Canada. Please come out to that. I always like to end this on some kind of negative way.
Wow.
If you're reading comic books, grow the fuck up.
Wow.
This is the downside.
1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Downside.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.